Mr. Sir, and I am here with lesson number 10. We're just going to be wrapping up the factors of consumerism now. This is the last little bit of information for chapter 7. It's kind of like the last little bit of notes. And then we'll be able to move on to looking at some projects, some things like that, a little bit more fun. We just got to get through this. So like last week, we looked at the first factor of consumerism, marketing, and then we looked at all the different types of marketing, marketing techniques. So today we're going to be looking through just the other 5 factors of consumerism. So, I accidentally closed that one. My bad. All right. Factors of consumerism. Continue.
Marketing.
Yeesh. Okay, so we learned about marketing last lesson. Today we'll be looking at the other 5 factors. So, factor 1 was marketing. Factor 2 is identity. So as I'm looking at identity, it's looking at your individual or collective identity. So, your identity as a group. So choices we make as consumers affect our identity. So it could be how we look, what we value, who we are. All right, so, some people use brands, could be clothes, could be cars, could be shoes, could be even the stores they buy their food from. That's part of their identity. Could be with their values. Some people are really big into Nike. Some people are really big into Adidas or Supreme or some other brand, and it says something about them. Typically, if somebody wears, Nike, Adidas all the time, what does that say about who they are as a person? It might say something like maybe they're into athletics, or somebody who likes to buy different types of manga or comic books. What does it say about who they are? It says, well, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I enjoy. All right, so one thing to think about is to look at, I have here, well, what do these cars tell you about the owner's identity? So you have Mr. Sir's car on the left, beauty, and then you have, I wish my car on the right. Looks like a nice, beautiful Tesla. So what does it say about the identity of the driver or the owner of the car? Okay, so now I'm just going to get back to looking at here. So here's the assignment. So we'll go back to the factors in just a sec. So it says we already talked about the first factor, marketing, the various marketing techniques that can be used to influence consumer behavior. Now we're going to be looking at the other 5 factors that can influence the choices you make as a consumer. So complete the sections below and answer the reflection questions after each table. So when I'm looking at the first factor number 2, well, that is identity. I'm going to be adding in information in here. So factor 2, identity. What does it mean? So looking at the slide, so it talks about, choices we make as consumers affect our identity. So how we look, what we value, who we are. And then give an example in your own words. So talk about it. So you could use the cars, or you could talk about, I choose to wear this or buy this because this reflects this part of my identity. I know in the previous one, I talked about how, I buy some clothes from this company called Tentry because part of my identity is something that's important to me is the environment. So I found that's a value of mine. Or another thing is, my wife and I, we recently bought a plug-in hybrid car. So that kind of goes into that. So if you saw me driving up in this car and it's really quiet because it has an electric motor, for the most part, what would that tell you about me? About what I value, my identity. Okay? My voice cracked there. Oops. All right, so it just kind of goes through all the different factors. I'll skip over some of that. So if I look here, so factor 3. Health and safety. So another factor of consumerism, so that influences the choices we make when we buy things, could be health and safety. So making choices to affect your own health and safety or the health and safety of others. So think about products you can buy or that maybe that you've bought based off of, well, is this a healthy choice? Now, usually that'll tie into lifestyle choices like food or other things. I mean, over here you have an apple versus a donut, and over here you have a carton of cigarettes. So when we shop, do we consider the health and safety of the products for ourselves and our society? Sometimes the government makes these choices for us, and sometimes we have to choose for ourselves. So sometimes the government will ban products because they're unsafe, or there will be products that we know aren't the healthiest, but there are warnings that go along with it. So like on every tobacco product, there's always a warning label because it is showing you the risks of making that choice. It's hard to make. I mean, donuts are delicious. Apples are also good, but one is better for you than the other, most likely. I mean, and health and safety is the reason why there's nutrition facts in all of the food that we buy. If that makes sense. So we look, I can go back over here. So factor 3, we're going to talk about health and safety. What does it mean? Give an example. And then there's a question underneath. So it says, are the products that you buy or don't buy due to health concerns? So do you think about that stuff? When you go to 7-Eleven, are you looking for a healthy alternative? Or are you buying a vitamin water versus a Monster energy drink? And let's look at the next little one under here. So it has some interesting health and safety facts. So I'm not going to go through some of this, but I would really encourage you to read this thing about earbuds and the bacteria that's on it. For people who enjoy wearing heels, well, here's some interesting thing about heels. And then for those of us who enjoy energy drinks, well, there's some stuff about energy drinks and talks about liver damage, blood pressure, tooth erosion, etc. All right, factor number 4, we have jobs. So when you buy a product, you connect to a chain of people and their jobs. Many jobs go into the consumption of goods and services. So there's the definition there. We'll put factor 4, jobs. What does it mean? And then give an example. Now you'll get a better idea what I mean for an example in just a sec. So let's look here. Who's involved in making your pen? So everybody here has a pen probably at home, or when we were in school had a pen in their binder or in their locker or in their backpack, or you stole one from Mr. Sir. So let's have a look. Who makes your pen? Well, it starts down here. It says plastic suppliers, chemists, petrochemical engineers, managers, support staff, metal suppliers, mine workers, processing plant operators, managers, support staff. Then it has the people in the manufacturing, assembly machine operators, ink compounders, quality control workers, and then it goes to transport workers. So the people that are taking it, taking the manufactured pens from here to the store. So you have the truckers, warehouse workers, managers, and then it goes to the store workers, salespeople, marketers, etc. And then it goes to you. So even though a pen we think is just this small little simple thing, there's a lot of components that go into it, and there's a lot of different jobs that go into just making that one pen. So starting from getting the raw materials, to manufacturing it, to transporting it, and then to finally selling it to you. So there's some good examples here. So, and I'm just asking you to think about this. So think about your phone. What jobs go into getting your phone's raw materials to the store, to you to buy it? Right? So, I mean, I think an iPhone 11 is probably a little bit more complex than a pen. So that would be maybe a little bit more interesting. All right, so let's look at that. Now, some people look at the jobs aspect of it, and sometimes people will buy certain things from certain companies based off of the kinds of jobs that go into creating the product. Now think about this. Would your decision be affected if you like the t-shirt but not the salesperson trying to sell it to you? Would your decision be affected if you like the company who designed the shirt, but then there's a commercial that goes along with it that is really annoying and makes you kind of not like it? Or would your decision be affected if you knew the shirt was made by workers who were mistreated in other countries? And that ties into the next slide number 10. There's a news clip I want you guys to watch. It's from, I think, a disaster that happened in Bangladesh at a sweatshop. Now, sweatshops are something I know we briefly talked about. We'll talk about it more, but it's a very common used, low-income low-paying factory in which a lot of products are made. So t-shirts, jeans, shoes. Most of the stuff that we buy, if you look on your tag and it says made in China, India, Bangladesh, Indonesia, etc., these are poorer countries with not the same working standards or wages that we have. And yeah, it's not the greatest place. And that ties into the question in the next bit. So I want you to watch the video. Now, how does it make you feel knowing that most of the clothes that you or we wear are made by people in these conditions? Why do you think so many brands use these types of factories to make our clothes, shoes, and other goods? So why do we rely on sweatshops? Or why do a lot of companies rely on sweatshops? All right, let's look at the next one. We have the environment. All right, your choices as a consumer also affect the air that you need to breathe, the water that you need to drink, and the land that you share with everybody. So you got to think, are the things that we're buying, how does it affect the environment around us? So when you make a purchase, do you think about the raw materials used? So what materials went into it? So how did they get it? Okay, what the type and amount of packaging? So I don't know if you guys have printers at home, but if you ever unpack a ink cartridge for a printer when you need to replace it, the amount of packaging for a pretty small little box that you just plug into your printer is kind of ridiculous, between different layers of plastic, cardboard, and other paper, and more plastic. It's crazy. The energy used by the product or used to make it. So how much energy is used by, your phone when you plug it in? How much energy went into creating it? Was it very energy intensive? Did it take a lot of energy to manufacture your product? Now, how long does the product last? Does it last a long time? Is it a one-time disposable thing? Will it be good for a year, then you got to replace it? Is it good for 5 years, and then you have to replace it? And then what happens to the product when you're done with it? So, there's a picture of a Starbucks mug here. You buy it, it's a one-time thing. You can't really reuse them. I mean, you could potentially, but you can't. So, think about people who go to Starbucks, Tim Hortons, or these other places every day. Now, what happens to that product when they're done with it? They drink it, and then what happens to the cup? Now, some people think that cups are recyclable, but they're not. So this thing just looks at, how the lid's recyclable, the little paper sleeve that is there to help protect your hands when it's hot is recyclable, but the cup itself is not. Even though it's made out of paper, it's layered in plastic, and it just goes into the garbage and then goes into a landfill. Or like bottles of water, a lot of that stuff ends up in the environment because it's not properly disposed of. So, do you think about that when you buy something? What happens to it in the end? Okay, how does it affect the environment around you? Now, the question is the environment important to you? Would you be more or less likely to buy something from a company that is environmentally friendly? So, do they have solar power factories or stores? Do they have recyclable products? Can you reuse their products? Are they built to last? What do you think? And then last but not least, we have prosperity. So, prosperity relates to the amount of money people have as individuals and societies. So some countries and societies are wealthier than others, which we're going to talk about in a sec. So prosperity is affected by the health of the economy. So that could be the amount of jobs that are in the place that you live. Is there a lot of trade? What's the unemployment rate? Are a lot of people without work? Or a lot of people looking for jobs? Now, people in regions decide how to spend their money depending on how much money they have and their needs and wants. So the more money you have, the more likely you are to consume things, typically. You're going to be buying more things. That's just the way it goes. The more disposable income you have, the more stuff you're going to buy, products or services. So, same thing here. Factor, definition, and then give an example in your own words. Now there's a question here. It says prosperity affects the amount that a person consumes. An average Canadian will consume more goods and services than an average citizen in Mexico. Why is this? How does this affect the quality of life for people in Canada and in Mexico? So who has a higher quality of life, do you think? So let's look here. Canada is more prosperous. Now prosperity, prosperous are all related words. So Canada is a more prosperous country than Mexico at the end of the day. Canada has a lower unemployment rate. So that means more people are working. Canada has higher wages for its workers. We have wage laws. We have minimum wage, which in a lot of places in Canada is around $15 an hour. It is not that in Mexico. The economy in Canada is larger, So Canada has more resources to trade and companies to do business with. So we have way more companies coming to Canada to do business, to set up shop, and to sell their products to us because they know that we can afford them. Now, Canadians typically live in larger homes and have more money on average, which means that we tend to consume more products and services. So that directly ties into that last question. Now, quality of life is the big thing to think about here. So how does this affect the quality of life for people in Canada and Mexico? Now, because we have more money to consume things, does that mean our quality of life is higher than that of people in Mexico? What do you think? All right. Uh-oh.